Welcome to Legends in Leadership. I'm Sheila Rondeau, the CEO and marketing strategist at MOGXP. MOGXP specializes in experiential marketing, where we bring consumers and brands into memorable moments. Today, our guest is Jim Keys. Jim was the CEO of 7-Eleven and Blockbusters, and he truly is a legend. He has a project right now that we want to talk about that shows his leadership, his thought process, his passion, and what he truly brings to our community. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheila. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. Please talk to us about your new book.
Sure. Well, it's called Education is Freedom. And there's actually, I'll share with you the backstory about how I came up with that title. It's kind of a fun story. But it really speaks to, on a global scale, the power of education to transform individuals, but also to sustain a working democracy. All the way back to our founding fathers, Jefferson said the key to a democracy and the sustainability of a democracy, guys like Jefferson, de Tocqueville even, said an educated populace, an educated electorate are critical to the success and the ongoing sustainability of the democratic system.
Okay. Right now, we're in a position where people make choices on what are their next steps coming out of high school. Some college is the right thing. For others, it's trade schools. Others, it is the military. But when it comes down to it, there are core things you need to know in education in order to go to the places you wanted to go, but more so, learn the things you need to learn to be successful. Share about your book and how you lay that out.
Yeah, I'll share with you an unpopular opinion. College is essential for everyone. Now, very unpopular opinion, because trade schools are important and, vocations are critical to the future of our country as well. But everyone should at least give themselves the chance for as much opportunity as they can. And that means they should get the most breadth of education possible. Here's why. I'll give you 3 reasons. Number 1, AI. We're in the information age, right? AI is going to go deep, really deep on any given subject. It'll replace a lot of vocations in the next 20, 30, 40 years. AI will always have difficulty with the breadth, the things like the human wisdom, the ability to accrue knowledge and then ultimately wisdom and make better decisions than a machine, certainly in our lifetimes, hopefully, will ever be able to make, right? So that's one. In the information age, a college degree is going to be very, very important. If not a college degree, as much breadth of learning as one can possibly accumulate, which they can today through technology. The second reason is just pure and simple jobs. I had a chance to go to Hamburger University in high school. We were in one of these bubbles where the economy was great and all these vocations sounded good, and McDonald's tried to talk me into going to Hamburger U. Well, thank goodness I said, no, I think I'm going to get a 4-year degree first, because it gave me the breadth, again, of a liberal arts education that let me realize I don't think I want to work in McDonald's for the rest of my life. There are other things I'd rather do. And it gave me that platform. And then the third thing is, about investing in yourself. There's a lot of discussion today about college being so important and so expensive. It's just prohibitively expensive. Well, Benjamin Franklin once said, if you think the cost of education, think about how long ago that was, right? If you think the cost of education is expensive, consider the price of ignorance, right? And it's so true. We've got this narrative today that college is too expensive, can't afford it, no return on investment. You would never look at any business decision and make an investment today without calculating a net present value of future earning streams and then calculating the difference of the interest, basically cost consideration in your net present value assessment to make any investment. A college education or any education is an investment in yourself. And here's the difference. It pays dividends over an entire lifetime.
Right.
So those three things are reasons that we should all pay attention, more attention than ever before, to the power of education.
I love it. There is nothing like education that allows people to advance and become what they're truly meant to be. And you don't know when you're living in a bubble where everyone around you does the same thing, has the same type of experiences. You go away to college and you are around people who are from different backgrounds, who have different interests, and all of a sudden you learn about careers you never even knew existed.
Exactly. So true. In fact, in my own college experience, I couldn't afford college. I was making $1.75 an hour flipping burgers at McDonald's, right? It was very expensive, prohibitively it seemed at the time. But I did go to school locally so that I could avoid room and board and spend the money on tuition. Went to College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts. And I had the opportunity junior year to do a year abroad. Life-changing experience. As you said, it wasn't about the course material that I took. It was about, for the first time, I was a minority. Because think about it, College of the Holy Cross in central Massachusetts, a lot of Irish and a lot of Italians, but not a lot of breadth at that time, many years ago, of diversity. And all of a sudden, I'm thrust into an environment where I was the odd guy. You know, I had a funny accent. I was the Yank. And I wasn't especially popular at first there, because I was dealing with this being different. And then what I found is that the people who were nicest to me were other people, minorities like me, so Pakistanis, Indians, etc. Little would I realize that dial forward 20, 30 years later, they would make up a huge portion of my franchise base. And that my cultural literacy, and this is what I've called it in the book, not diversity, it's too much polarization around that word, but cultural literacy. I learned about those cultures by being with them in a way I never would have done if I was in my little bubble. And it's helped me through my personal life, but also through my business careers. I had franchisees from all over the world and business operations across the globe in 20 different countries. It was tremendously valuable.
For me, education is so important that I spent 20 years in the Army to pay for my education. I spent 6 years on active duty and 14 years in the National Guard, and that's how I paid for college. So I was a non-traditional college student. I was a freshman at 24. But I understand the value of education, having been in third world nations where they don't have those opportunities. There's nothing like going someplace like Korea or Saudi Arabia or Iraq, where the majority of the public doesn't get the opportunity to have an education. And here we take it for granted so quickly instead of really valuing it and making the most of it. In your book, you talk about those keys to success. Will you share those with us?
Sure. I talk about three things. I call them the C-suite learning. So all of the things that I was able to learn, not only from, my formal education, but during my business career. And these are the softer skills, if you will, that I wish someone had taught me when I was 17, 18 years old. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible, but the what, the how, and the why of learning. The why is really important too, because we often think about what we learn and how we learn, but why are we even going to school? Why is it important to keep learning? So would you like me to share those with you?
Please.
Okay. Where do you want to start? The what? Should we start with the what?
Yes, let's start with the what.
All right. I'm excited about the what because the what has actually gotten me over 20 million views on social media recently. And I just sat there with a young man who put a microphone up to me and said, tell me what your secret to success was in being able to run 2 Fortune 500 companies. So I gave him these 3 things. I said, change, confidence, and clarity.
Okay.
Right? And it's that's so simple. No, it's not so simple. People don't like change.
Right.
They just don't like it, and ironically, change is where opportunity lives. I've coined the expression to be a CEO. The acronym CEO doesn't mean Chief Executive Officer. It means change equals opportunity.
Love it.
Isn't that precious? Because it's so valuable to realize that, because if you think about all commerce, how is commerce started? Commerce begins with someone recognizing an opportunity. You have a need. I'm going to fill that need. And by the way, that need may change tomorrow. So if I adapt and fill that need tomorrow, I'm going to keep your business. And if somebody else, and if I don't adapt and meet your tomorrow need, someone else will come in, see that need, and take that business. And that's what commerce is all about. It's responding to change. But when change happens, so many people put their head down, and it's not the change itself, it's the reaction to the response to change that's so critically important. And if you've got your head down because the economy has collapsed, you'll collapse too.
Yes.
You keep your head up and you look to the future, and you'll find that you have an opportunity because everyone else around you has given up. So that's change.
Yes.
In order to do that, in order to keep your head up, you have to have confidence. Well, fear is pervasive in society, in business, and in our personal lives. We run around with little fear words in our ears. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I've got imposter syndrome. How did I ever get? That fear is a killer. It kills individuals, it kills careers, and it kills corporations. It can even kill governments and societies if fear causes us to implode, right? What's the antidote to fear? Guess?
Action.
Action is good. What do you do when you're a little girl and you're scared of the dark? After calling mom, what'd she do?
You turn on the light.
Turn on the light. Exactly. So when you're afraid and you turn on the light, you realize there's nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
That's what knowledge is. Knowledge is the light. If we're afraid of anything, the more we understand it, the less we have to fear. And so that builds confidence, getting rid of fear. So how do you turn on the light personally? Preparation. The more you prepare for something, the less you have to be afraid. So Tom Brady wasn't Tom Brady. I should use Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes isn't Patrick Mahomes because he's got a dad body. He is Patrick Mahomes because he prepares. I don't care if he is the perfect physical specimen. He goes on that field prepared.
Yes.
And that translates into confidence. And then finally, the third, I'll give you the third. I'm droning on and on. Clarity. Clarity. Because it doesn't matter how you respond to change and have the confidence to do it. If you don't have the clarity to communicate, here's the direction we're going, you can't lead because people can't follow what they don't understand. So clarity of both inbound communications, in other words, listening, which I'm not doing a very good job of at this moment, and external communications, speaking. That clarity piece, change, confidence, clarity, total secret to success.
Perfect. Love it. So you were talking about the what, and now is the how?
Mm-hmm. The how, I've also put into simple terms, 3 things. So first, critical thinking. Mm-hmm. You know what that is?
I do.
Tell me your definition of critical thinking.
So for me, it is making sound decisions by weighing things out, by valuing the equations of what outcomes there are and a decision-making process, not just by making emotional decisions.
Exactly. Let me refine it just a tad for you. It's asking why. Okay. It's the classic Socratic method. All the way back to the ancient philosophers, they recognized the importance of critical thinking and asking the fundamental question, why? Why do you have that point of view? Before I completely dismiss your opinion, to truly understand why you think the way you think. It's essential. We all learn it in grammar school. We learn the scientific method. The scientific method: plan, do, see. Come up with a hypothesis, take an action, and then see the results and then start over. That's the Japanese have embraced that Kaizen, right? Continual improvement. It's the scientific method at work. It's critical thinking at work. So it's pretty straightforward, but we forget sometimes.
It's tried and true.
It works. It works for all decision making, personal and professional. So the second, curiosity. How do you have children?
I do.
How often have they said, why? Why, Mom? Why? Why?
For years.
Yeah. And what do you usually do? Shut up. I'm sick of it. Right? Well, we're all naturally curious, but so many of us, we get older and that curiosity kind of wanes a little bit. But if we can nurture that inner child, that just natural curiosity to understand the world, what's going on? Why are those people different? Why do they have that point of view? The more we understand, the better off we'll be for it. And then the third piece of this, very similar to curiosity, is creativity. I love Einstein's quote, and I'm a frustrated artist. I paint, I write music, I do all this, and I'm terrible, by the way, but it doesn't matter because I'm nurturing that right brain activity. Einstein calls creativity intelligence, having fun. And it's so true. It's so true. We get so caught up in our technical lives. I'm an accountant. I'm an engineer. I do this, that we don't nurture that fun side of intelligence, that creative side, that it makes learning more interesting. It makes us more curious, and it makes critical thinking a part of our daily life because we're creative enough to ask the right questions. So see how it all comes together? Those are the how to learn elements.
I think those elements also make people much more interesting people and more rounded. When you start looking at people who are only analytical and don't have creativity, you can find creative outlooks and outlets that allow you to be better at your analytics because it makes you push boundaries. It makes you open your mind and think differently. For me, I tend to be very analytical. Working in the agency world, you'd think analytics in an agency don't quite mix. But for me, I find my best problem solving is how do I make things happen and looking at all the possibilities. And you can only do that when you can open your mind and look at new things, and creativity gives you that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you actually teed me up for the why.
Okay.
Because you're right. I mean, think of the most interesting people that you know. They have a certain air about them. They have a sense of curiosity. They have some creativity to them. And they're just interesting people. But the third element or the third leg of this stool about C-suite learnings, I've called it learning to learn, if you will, is the why. And I wasn't going, in my book, I hadn't yet addressed the why. I had a friend say, have you read Simon Sinek's book, the book about why? He said, I have. And you're right. I haven't really spoken to the why of learning. Why is college important? What do you learn there other than the fundamentals, et cetera, et cetera? So here's the why of learning, whether it's a college education or just lifelong learning. Here's the why. Again, 3 things, trying to keep it simple. The first is collaboration. In school, you're an individual performer. You're like a tennis player or a golfer versus a football player. It doesn't matter what everybody else does. You're on a bell curve anyway. You're going to perform against the others. And then all of a sudden you end up in the work world, or in my case, in graduate school and business school, and they throw something called a case study at you. And now, wait a minute, my grade's going to depend on this knucklehead? I don't want that, but that's the real world. Because what you then find out, and I tell this story in the book, I wasn't an accountant at all. And I had never taken an accounting class. And I end up at business school, and one of these kids is from Deloitte, and he's a CPA. Well, wait a minute, he's on my case study, and this is an accounting case study. So now I need him more than he needs me, but he didn't have a creative bone in his body. And I was able to help contribute to the case by looking at a creative solution for comparing balance sheets. So it turned out that both of us learned the power of collaboration, and we got an A in the class as a result. So collaboration is the first of the why learn. Well, because in order to collaborate, you have to have all of those other things, the confidence to let someone else contribute, the creativity, the cultural the curiosity to be able to ask them questions. So that's the first. The second of the whys, and I mentioned this one before, I call it cultural literacy. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter if you're in a church group, a business, or your community, society at large. You're going to have people that are different from you. And if we could just look at others as bringing value to us in multiple ways, because if I just surround myself with people that look just like me, back to your point about interesting people, I'm going to be maybe interesting to other people that look just like me, but not very interesting outside of that little bubble. But if I can become personally create my own patchwork quilt of all of the different cultures that are very different from me, and I can take away from each of these people that I interact with a little of them and make them part of me, then I become a more interesting person. And I have an easier time with collaboration now because I'm collaborating with a bigger population.
Right.
I can move easily. Rich people, poor people, one religion versus another, one ethnic group versus another. It doesn't matter because I've made all of those cultures part of me, right? Cultural literacy.
Yeah.
You want the third?
Please.
The third is the most important of the whys. And it's something you don't learn in school. Sometimes you may learn it in church. You may learn some aspects in your church or your synagogue or whatever your faith might be. But it is that brand that makes you who you are. It's the third C, character.
Okay. Yeah.
And the character is, it's simple, easy to say. Integrity. How do people look at you? Do they trust what you say? Can they count on you? Humility, the ability to know that even though you're confident, you have more to learn. So I have more to learn from you in spite of my level of confidence. So if I don't have that humility, then it's easy to cross over into arrogance, right?
Right.
So compassion, empathy, all of those things that make our brand. In other words, when I pick up a can of soft drink, if it's a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, I know what's in that can. If it's generic cola, not sure what's in there.
Okay.
That's what character represents for us. It's our personal brand that others see looking at us, and they know they can trust us when they make a decision. They want someone side by side with them. So those are the three elements of why to learn. Why to learn? Why do you have to learn character that way? Well, you can't get these things from a book. You get these things from working with others and having the ability to learn with others. So it's the collaboration, cultural literacy, and character that represent the why of education.
Okay. So you've taken us through these steps for success, why education is so important. Then my next question is, what is your call to action? What are the steps that people need to take to move that forward? What are you asking them to do?
Sure. I'm going to do it in 2 blocks.
Okay.
Instead of 3 for a change. We'll do 2 this time.
It works.
We'll change it up a little. 2 blocks. Let's go micro first. Let's look at the individual. What's the call to action for the individual? We see the subtitle of the book.
The future is in your hands.
Literally in your hands as an individual. There is no excuse today with the availability of technology. I have in my pocket a device that can give me access to any information across the globe, right? And the way I learned when I was in school was a set of encyclopedias my mom brought home from the grocery store. That's the difference in access to information yesterday versus today. So anyone that says, oh, the world's different today, it's not as easy to get an education, it's not as easy to learn, blah, blah, blah. It's an excuse. Technology today, you can learn anything you want. Having trouble with math? Go to Khan Academy. Free. Learn anything about math you want. So absolutely there. So call to action for the individual. The future is in your hands, literally. You can be anything. You can do anything you want to do today. No excuse, right?
Okay. So the next part to that.
Yep. And that's society.
Okay.
So that's us as a people, as a human race. I talk about a lot about, I've got a fascination with space and astronauts, and I talk about some of my astronaut friends, and they look at the world from a different perspective after they've been out in space. And I see it a little bit. I'm a pilot, and if I'm flying at 45,000 feet, I can just barely see the curvature of the Earth. And there's a thing called the overview effect that they all describe. What that means is you look at the world in a little different way. It's actually a pretty small place. And when you're flying along at 45,000 feet or 200,000 feet as an astronaut, you don't see borders. You don't see cultures. You don't see religions. You see Earth, and you see the human race. And the future literally is in our hands collectively, because from 45,000 feet, you look at the problems that we're grappling with today, and they are silly. You look down there and you see people using conventional warfare and killing each other with tanks. And you say, why in this day and age has humanity not progressed enough that we can move beyond these fears that we have? Because most of those issues that we face as humanity are caused by fear. Somebody's going to take something from us. They're going to do something to us. They're going to hurt us. They're going to take our things, our stuff, our money. What they can't ever take is your education. And if we all as humanity step back, recognize the power of technology to expand knowledge across the globe, which we are here today, we can do to education, to learning and teaching, what Elon Musk did to cars or Jeff Bezos did to retail. We can do that to education and light up this planet in a way that mankind has never seen, with people being far more knowledgeable than ever before in the history of man. And hopefully we can replace ignorance with knowledge and understanding. And if you do that, you can replace fear with confidence, and you can replace the violence and the anger that come from fear with understanding and with peace. The key is education. The future is in our hands, literally.
Absolutely. Right now it's in mine.
Now it's in yours.
So
it's a big responsibility you have.
Yes, it is. And for me, when I talk to so many authors go into writing a book because they have somebody in mind who should hear the message. Who should read this book?
My first target was young people, because the book is actually, I said I'd share with you the name of the title. Do you want me to tell that story?
Please.
I was walking across campus at Columbia University. I was privileged to be able to go to graduate school. I was there to teach a class, and I saw this young man, African-American kid, looked like hell, arm full of books, been studying all night. And I'm walking across campus in a suit and tie going to teach a class. And I thought, oh, look at me. And then I saw his t-shirt. On his t-shirt were those three words: education is freedom. It stopped me in my tracks. I was like, wait, that's me. I would not be here but for that. And you know what? I thought I was done. I'm not done. I want to continue being free. I want to learn how to do more things. I want to excel in my career. That means I have to keep learning. So education is freedom became the mantra that changed my whole mindset, not only reflecting on my past, but particularly my future and going forward. And it helped me through my career. So my target is all of those young people that say, oh, I don't need school, I don't need to keep learning, blah, blah, blah. Education opens so many doors for them. As I wrote the book, targeting those young people and doing my research, I stepped back from it and said, how do you explain all of the crazy things going on in society today? This is hard. How do I talk about confidence without pointing out that even some confident people do some really stupid things? How do I explain this, right? And as I started working on it, I realized that these are those soft skills that I talked about. Things like, it's one thing to have intelligence. It's another thing to have knowledge.
Yes.
And a completely different thing to have wisdom. And that's what I think those soft skills that I called them help us do, to use education, not just to give us intelligence. That's IQ. Not even to give us knowledge. That's IQ plus EQ. I call it that extra piece of character, that Y of learning that gives you IQ plus EQ plus what I call CQ, the character quotient that separates just really smart people doing really dumb things sometimes from those with wisdom enough to step back from those things and make better judgments.
Got it. So there are a lot of people who need to read your book. How did they find it?
It is available now on Amazon.com. It ships on February 22nd, so February 27th, so just about 2 weeks. It'll begin shipping. It's also going to be available Hudson bookstores in the airports, Barnes & Noble, bookstores hopefully across the country will be able to sell you a copy, but I encourage people to get online now. Get them while they're hot. In case we haven't ordered enough, they may run out. I guess that's a good problem to have. But I do encourage everyone not just to buy the book. Here's what my prayer is, that people will buy the book, they'll read it, but then they'll gift it to someone else. This is not a book I want you to put on the shelf. I want you to buy it, read it, and hopefully then give it to someone who needs it, and then encourage them to give it to someone else so that more and more people can just at least get exposure to these softer skills that are critical for all of us to succeed individually, but also to come together as one people on this beautiful planet that we live on together.
Thank you. So the name of the show is Legends in Leadership. And the reason we asked you to come on is because you have been such an amazing leader in so many aspects. This is just another example of your leadership and what you do, not only for the business community, but the community at large. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. I appreciate the opportunity.